Hello and welcome to Video Blog Basics. Ben Eady here. What we're going to teach you today is how to do a intro using PowerPoint and Camtasia, as well as basically a Camtasia workflow. Now, I'm going to really jump in quickly here and show you the Camtasia recorder, but when you start working with PowerPoint and Camtasia, it's slightly different. So, one thing that you can do in here is that you can create custom sizes, and so generally what I try to do is just keep the widescreen 1280 by 720, so that shows you where you need stuff to be. Now let's just open up a browser window, and one thing I think is really kind of interesting about this is if you click on here. Now if I come in and I go custom locked application after I've set the size, you'll notice that it brings it into the exact size that I want. Now I know in a previous video I told you to go and get the resizer, and that will resize a window for you if you really need it to, and I still recommend that because if you're practicing something, you want to practice in the size of the video that you're doing so that you don't confuse people. And then after that, setting up your audio preferences and everything, the defaults will generally work perfectly for you. You hit record, you do re-recording, and then you go into editing. Now that's a standard workflow if you're not working in PowerPoint. However, with Camtasia, one of the really cool things is, and I'll just get rid of this and we'll open up PowerPoint, is that right within PowerPoint, let's just open that one up, is that you can go to the add-ins tab and Camtasia is right there, and it'll do the recording right within the software. So let's just get started here on what we need to do. Now, first thing we need to do is the design. Now with the design, we want to go to page setup, and I prefer 16 by 9. Some people like 4 by 3, but I prefer 16 by 9. I think it actually gets you a better response for online videos, so we'll change that. We'll hit OK, and now we have the 16 by 9, so that when we play this full screen, you'll notice that I get the 16 by 9 window. Now what I'm going to do here is, well, first let's just take a look at the background styles, right? I want to format the background, and I want to change the background to a picture or a texture fill, and I want to insert from a file, and we're going to go to the desktop, and I've already gotten all these things in order as far as the files that we need. So we're going to insert this. We've got that, and you can see that it shows up fairly nicely. We might want to move the graphic down. Again, it's good if you already have a file that's like 16 by 9. And we're just kind of moving it around so it looks fairly nice. And I also like to reduce the transparency on these down to, I don't know, between 30 and 50% seems to be good, because that way you're taking the focus away from the picture in the background and bringing it right to the text. So let's close that down. The next thing is we're doing a Video Blog Basics title, so let's click on that and let's move this over to where it's going to be. We're going to take this text here and we'll move it down. This will be, let's see, what I'm teaching you today is a Camtasia workflow on a Windows machine, and also how to make an intro. So how about we do so I'm going to have to learn how to spell here. And also make sure I have the camel case lettering properly. And at this point we need to adjust the text, because this is the font that I want to have. So you can highlight the text and you can right click on it. And I want to choose my favorite, which is not Arial, it's ERAS. So let's scroll down to find it. ERAS Bold is what we use for the font for this site. We'll do the same here. But we also, I want to say that that size looks a little too big. Let's go to 28, looks fine. And we'll bring that over here. Kind of think that this could go a little bigger. So we'll come into this font here. We'll say 40, what's that, 44? Let's see what 48 looks like. 48 looks fine. Change the font color to an orange, which is what we generally like. And you can also come in here, and if you right click, you'll notice that you can Format Text Effects. And if you come in here, this will allow you to do a few things. Like your text fill is a solid fill. I like to have an outline around the text. Let's say the color is going to be a black. That looks good. And you can also do things like when you edit the text or you do the text settings, is that you can also do, like, say, a shadow, and they have some preset shadow settings like this, for instance. They look pretty good. You know, you can't really go wrong with that. With this guy here, we want the text to be black. So we can go to text fill, the color, we'll say black. That looks pretty good. And maybe adjust this just slightly to see if we can make it look a little better, a little more stylish. Again, this is all, you know, don't kill yourself trying to make sure that you've got all the styling and everything perfect. Don't spend so much time that it's prohibitive to you making the videos that you need to make. Do it so that they look good, and, you know, stop there. And after practice, you'll notice that you get really good at this sort of stuff. Now, so we've got this layout for the intro, and we want this to fade in and this to maybe type in. We'll add those effects, but at the same time, we also want to add music to this. So we're going to come in here, we're going to add some audio. Now, when you're doing an intro, you want to keep them between 2 and 10 seconds. I know I've made a lot of intros longer than that. You're really wasting your time and everybody else's. If you want to really show off, do that within the video by giving them great content. Don't show them off with an intro. So we're going to add that audio file. Now, one thing you'll notice here, this is kind of interesting, and this is where we're going to get into the timing of everything, is that if I show this PowerPoint the way it is, we'll go full screen. You'll see that we have the audio there, and if I click on it, it'll play. Problem with that is that we don't want that icon there, so we're just going to move this right off the screen so you can't even see it, and we're going to set it up in the timing so that it auto plays. And I'm just going to zoom this out just a little bit. So we move that. There we go. So now we have everything set up properly. Now we want to go through and set up the transitions and animations. Now, transitions are the transition for the slide, the entire plate, and animations are for the text, right? So let's just take a quick look at this, and we want this to fade in. Let's say we want that to fade in just like that, and that looks great. So we'll do that, and then we're going to come into animations. And with the animations, I like to bring up the animation pane, and this makes our lives a little easier. So we've got the 10-second audio clip, and we want that to be the first thing to go through on this entire thing, and we want that to start on a click. And I'll show you why you want that to start on a click here in a moment. Then we're going to click on this text here, and let's say we want this whole block of text to fade in, just like that. So now we've got that fade in. We're going to say start after the previous, right? How about we do this? We come in here, we go to the effect options, it brings up a dialog. So you want it always to start from the beginning. With the timing, you want it to start after the previous. Now, if I started after the previous, I made a mistake there. What will happen is that after this audio is played, it's not going to go properly. So we're going to start with previous, and we want to maybe delay that by a second. The duration, we're just going to use the default, and that looks pretty good. So we hit that. So let's just do a quick little play, and you can see that that fades in and the audio comes in about the same time. So we might want to adjust this just a little bit for the timing. Let's say we delay that by 2.5 seconds, and then we should start hearing the music. There we go. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We've got to come into here now, and then with this text, we want it to appear, and you can see that it just pops up. So let's come in here. Let's go into effect options. We're not going to deal with the sounds, but we do want this to come in by letter. And to make it look like it's typing, you really need to shorten this down to like half of a second, or less than half a second, a tenth, what do you call it? 0.05 seconds, all of that. So we've got that, and you can see that it looks like it's being typed in at that point. So we've got that. Let's go into the effect options again. With the timing, we want this to start. Now remember that this 10-second clip starts at about 2.5 seconds. So on this one, we want it to start with the previous, but we want it to delay. Let's assume that that one, this fade in is about a second long, so it's 3.5 seconds is what we need. And we've got all that set up. So let's see what happens here when we play it. And I can see that that delay was just a little too much. So let's go into the effect options again. Let's go into timing. Well, let's take this down to 2.5. We should be okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try a test. So the way the test is going to work is I'm going to hit the slideshow, and I should, given this, the way I've set up the audio is that you have to start on a click. Nothing's going to start until I hit the mouse button. So let's see what happens here. We'll go full screen. We got the fade in. Then I'm going to click. And you'll notice that everything came in. Now the audio seems to be coming in kind of at a bad time. So let's take a look at the timing. I see what's happening here. Is I got that 10-second clip out of order here. So that MP3, we want it to start on a click. Then we want this to start with the previous. And then let's see what happens here. And that works out pretty good. Okay, so we corrected that. Now, this is one of those things where you got to go back and forth and test. So let's go to slideshow and see what happens. So that should fade in. Nothing will happen until I click the mouse, which is now. And you can hear the music and the fade in happen, and then that typing happens. Let the music finish and everything's good. So we've got this slide set up for the intro, and at this point it becomes very easy. I go to add-ins, and now I hit record. Now when I hit record, what will happen is it'll bring up the presentation, but down in the bottom right it will bring up a dialog box saying, do you want to record this? So you hit the record on that. Deal with any pop-up boxes that happen, and then after that you hit the mouse button again, and it will record the system audio and basically the intro that you've just made. So let's just go through that there. You kind of have to aim this properly in the right spot. There we go. So we've got that, and then we're going to click again to get the intro coming through. And we'll let the music finish off, and then we'll have our intro clip that we can use to edit. So we've got that, we hit escape to get out of there. We're going to stop the recording. It's going to ask me where I want to save it, and you can see the old practice ones that I did here just moments ago. So we're going to save that there. And we want to edit the recording right away. So this brings up the dialog box. Again, you want to come to the editing dimensions that you like to use, which is 1280 by 720. And we're going to say OK. And you'll notice that the screen here is the full screen, and it's not necessarily what you want to have here. So I'm going to just expand a few things here. Now, zoom and pan. You can see that there's the full screen, but that's not what you really want. What you really want to have is that whole thing brought into frame about yay big. And you can see there's a little bit of a black edge there, and you always kind of have to play with these things to make sure that you have it cropped in there properly. So that looks pretty good. Let's see if we come into here, you can see that the Video Blog Basics comes in nice, and the whole PowerPoint thing. Now, what we have here is two different audios. The way I have it set up is that I always record the system audio and I always record the mic. So the the mic audio is always what comes in with the video, or the video screens. So we come into the audio, and once we have that, we can take this audio down to nothing. So that gets rid of all my talking, and then we'll just come back to the clip bin just to keep things nice and clean. And right here is I position the marker to the very beginning of the clip. Let's see here. You can see where it all fades in. Just trying to find that one spot. Just there's usually a sweet spot, and you want to leave a little bit of space for a fade in or anything that you want to do with your other video editing applications. So at this point, you right click, or you can just hit the S key, and that will split everything. this point, just do a Control X and delete that and bring this audio back to where it is to keep in sync. And let's just take a quick look at how this looks. And that looks pretty good. So at this point, it's pretty simple. You go to produce and share. Now you can produce and share for YouTube and all sorts of different things. I generally just use the web. Now what this will do is it will make an MP4 video file for you, and it creates pretty high quality, low file size, so it plays back on multiple browsers. Basically it gives you the best settings you can without having to really think about things. And we'll go to next, and we will call this the intro, and we'll find a location to save it. So let's go to here, and we'll say intro. We're going to call this 01 because you can see that I had already done an intro here, and I'd like to keep that file. So we'll save that, and what it will do is organize the produced files into subfolders. So it'll do video blog basics number 5, and then it will do intro_01 just so that we have everything. So we hit finish, let it do its rendering magic, and once that's done, we can use that intro for whatever we need to. And that pretty much sums up a Camtasia workflow. So now that we have all this done, so I'm going to close this. We want to save this untitled. It's always good to not be lazy and make sure you title everything that you have, because if you don't, you're going to lose the file and wonder where it went. We're not going to need this PowerPoint anymore, but we will save it, because you can always use it again later for you can come back in here and change that little text. So let's open up Video Blog Basics 5, go to Intro 1. Now you'll notice that when it renders it, it gives you basically everything you need to install it onto a page. You have the Intro 1 HTML. The file you're looking for is this Intro 1 here. So let's just double click on this and see how our intro looks. Very clean, very professional, and it was very quick to make. So, and I gave you a quick workflow on that. So, to sum up, that is a standard Camtasia workflow using PowerPoint. It is just slightly different using any other application. So hopefully that's helped you out, and I will chat with you guys shortly.